What's the most hypocritical thing you've ever seen or have heard? My grandma called me a useless and dependent loser because I was having a hard time finding a job after college. This is the same woman who never had a job in her life and has been soaking up my grandpa's pension for the past 20 something years. Yes, but you're a man. I remember when I was making $45k annually as a furniture salesman at 24 with a jet. Couldn't stand my cowhawkers and didn't want to spend my whole life working 100% commission. So I started asking my family for leads on jobs I could apply to. Grandma straight up told me the Burger King down the road was hiring. Was pretty much the day I stopped talking to my family. Grandma straight up told me the Burger King down the road was hiring. In fairness, sometimes people are wildly out of touch with what jobs pay. Hence why they think that young people, anyone under 40, would all be millionaires if they only quit buying so much avocado toast and designer coffee. That was and is the conclusion that I reached at the time, but it contributed to a larger pattern of behavior. If we have stricter regulation on abortion, women are just going to get them illegally. Stricter regulation on firearms will prevent criminals from obtaining guns. It's a lot easier to get a wire hanger than it is to make a gun. The effectiveness of prohibition is a bit funny, but it works well on some things and not so well on other things. For example, marijuana and alcohol have both been prohibited, but were relatively easy to find. Machine guns have been strictly regulated and are very hard purchase on the black market because of those regulations. LSD is strictly banned and is nowhere as easy to find as marijuana is or alcohol was. I'm pretty sure they mean there are gonna be less abortions overall, but way more dangerous ones that end up killing the mother. Show me one person who said making abortion illegal wouldn't at all decrease the number of abortions. Less abortions, much more deaths of both the mother and child. My aunt literally told me parenting is all about hypocrisy, which is simple. Not really. I think being a parent is about teaching your kids to be better than you, to not do the things that you do, but instead do the right thing, make better choices than you did. I think hypocrisy is saying to equally situated people don't do this, while actually doing that thing. It's like a 40-year-old man saying to another 40-year-old man don't drink, but the speaking man is secretly drinking. Telling your kids don't do drugs, even if you did drugs as a kid, may not be hypocrisy. Say if you have had a change of heart having seen the consequences. That is personal growth. I see your point. The way I see it is, let's say someone tells you not to smoke as they take out a cigarette. If they are judging you, that is hypocrisy. If they are telling you not to smoke because they started and can't stop, that's not hypocrisy. People who eat meat who have never killed an animal for meat, IDK, that's hypocritical, but I think everyone should. What is hypocritical is people who say hunting is no longer necessary, have never killed an animal, but love slobbering over a burger. I've had a few people try and compare not having killed an animal for meat to not having grown crops, so therefore they shouldn't eat corn or some such similar comparisons. As someone who has gone from not having killed an animal for meat to having killed an animal for meat, the message I'm trying to convey is that it changes your perception of what meat is and life as a whole. And I believe that is an important revelation. You don't happen to go by Ron Swanson, do you? I also love old wooden ships. They're beautiful. I've never baked a croissant. Should I be unable to eat one then? I also certainly don't farm. Never grew anything successfully that's edible. Your lack of planning is not my emergency. From every teacher I ever handed a late assignment in high school. I work in the print industry, and let me tell you, this rule does not apply to the real world. Over half of my customer orders are last second. You can still have this done today, right? Maybe if the whole world is the print industry, if you've been asked to hand in a report, expect to be fired or lose that bonus. Sorry miss, I couldn't complete the assignment because my computer crashed. Well then you should have finished it before your computer crashed. Ah, but the difference is money. Your lack of planning is my payday. Oh, you need this by tomorrow? Rush orders are $100. As someone who grew up in a religious home, then later came out as, and started being involved in LGBTQ+ communities, I know I'm gonna get some hate for this. But honestly I have seen So many LGBTQ+ members speak about how open-minded they are because they are LGBTQ+, then dismiss or silence anyone voicing a separate opinion than their own narrative. Obviously if it is harassment or straight up unwarranted hate, that is different, but even then you could argue it's best to talk it out calmly with people like that if you truly believe love wins in the end. You are not wrong. There are people in the community who exclude bisexuals and or asexuals because it doesn't make sense to them. My mum doing something she told me not to do. Do as I say, not as I do. Filled with the "you'll understand when you have kids." Those are the exact words she used. Do all moms go to a pregnant school to learn those lessons? My mother would tell me not to text at the dinner table as she was texting someone. I felt the same way when I was 6 and I saw her drinking wine. Mine's retired now and does it so much, although we have a great relationship, so mostly it's me acting really offended at the hypocrisy and then we have a good laugh about it. It's usually life skills stuff like procrastinating, and since she's retired, it's no biggie. Big companies are now screaming for protectionism when globalization isn't working in their favor anymore. It just blows my mind. And just a while back everyone and their dog was telling me how companies are right by saying that protectionism is always bad. So much for bigwig grown-ups and economy experts knowing what they are doing. I have slowly learned and come to the realization that nobody really knows what they're doing. We're all kind of just floating on this big ball in space and creating this wild and weird world where grown-ups and economy experts are always right and feed BS to the masses who believe them. Pretty much. Truth apparently is just a matter of circumstances. Saw someone in the comments of a post get made fun of because they had an anime profile pic. So an in guy makes fun of the other dude for his video game profile pic. Then the guy with the video game pic retaliates by saying it's his hobby and people shouldn't make fun of him for what he enjoys. Stop liking things I don't like. Far too many people. Lol, pretty much the same thing happened to me a few weeks ago. I made a comment on a post on Instagram and this person replied to me making fun of me because all I post are game and anime pics, and he said anime is for losers and all that. He had a Goku profile pic. I pointed it out, and his excuse was it's the best anime. My mom's boss's wife, she constantly complains about how poor they are, even though she spends like 4 to 5 hours a day just shopping. My mom showed me her monthly spending, and it turns out she spends like $3,000 just on shopping alone. I find it bizarre your mom knows how much money and time her boss wife spends on shopping. Also, you have no idea what the word hypocritical means, do you? It's okay to admit it. A bookkeeper for a small business might do the owner's books as well. Poor equals no money for raises. Are her initials a P? I think I know her. That's how much I spend on all my bills every month. My dad cheated on my mom and got the babysitter pregnant. He objectifies all women, including my sister and me. He has been known to make really disgusting sexist comments. The only time I've ever known him to step foot in a church was when my mom took him. My 21-year-old sister, the one conceived during the affair, is bisexual. He likes to quote the Bible at her to tell her how she's doing something wrong. What's the likelihood that he never read the Bible and just googled those quotes? I'm sure my grandma drilled some verses into him when he was young. She was pretty devout. Teacher told us that turning stuff in even minutes late from the deadline is disrespectful and deserves no grade. My friend raised his hand after her aunt and asked why she hadn't finished grading our tests from 2 months prior. Geez, 2 months. How was she so behind? Did she just forget? Once had to wait 6 months for my grade. It was a multiple choice test. My record is 4 months. Did it in January this year, got it back around end of May. Because I don't respect you. Next. No, she actually just broke down and cried. I'm extremely depressed, but over the years I've gotten to control and hide it, and when I was 11 I told my mom I wanted to die. After she told me I could tell her anything and she wouldn't be upset, and she yelled at me, called me an idiot for thinking that way, and that you should never say that again. And I'm 16 now and that's still stuck with me. Dad died shortly before, maybe 2 years, but I Still want to die. My mom thinks I recovers, but I horn she sees me as a happy-go-lucky. She doesn't bother looking out the window, she just sees the window, and she has lost all trust I had for her. Someone said they were pro-life, but were not willing to financially support those unwanted children by paying a tax. They see the child as just punishment for the mother's loose morals. But children are a blessing, according to those same people. Why should I pay a tax for your child, wanted or unwanted? There are too many birth control methods out there for someone to have an unwanted pregnancy. Abortion is not a birth control method. It's not my kid, I shouldn't have to support it. And that's how public education was eliminated. Literally just happened to me a few days ago. Me to David, I'm going to do this thing. Later. Nathan to me, I heard you're doing this thing from David. Me, in my head, David likes to gossip. I guess I can't trust David with things I don't want shared with everyone. Today. David to Kate, I'm going to do that thing. Later. Mike to David, I heard you're doing that thing from Kate. David to me, why? Did Kate tell anyone that? Why couldn't she keep it to herself? Me facepalm. My neighbor illegal immigrants keep taking all the jobs. Also my neighbor illegal immigrants are all freeloaders and get everything without working. Scrodina's undocumented immigrant. Lem guess. They were white Also willing to guess they were just jumping at the opportunity to work in a highly labor intensive job for long hours with low pay and minimal job security. Yes. I mean, the low pay and the minimal security is made possible by the cheap illegal labor. My girlfriend led me on for 10 months of our year relationship. She didn't want to date me for over 80% of our relationship and used me. We were friends after we broke up. After a heart-to-heart one night, in which she confessed to using me and being really depressed since the breakup, I told her that, after I talked to my therapist in the morning, that we needed to talk the next day. The next day I told her I no longer wanted to be her friend. She screamed at me, I lead her on. Teen girl screams veganism is the best way to live. Proceeds to order a sandwich with meat. My teenage stepdaughter spent an hour in the car talking about how pork was disgusting and made her sick and asking me not to cook it anymore. When we arrived at our destination, she ordered a ham sandwich. When it was pointed out, she insisted that ham didn't count as pork. Teenage logic. ITH hasn't been co-okayed. SOIT doesn't count.